Welcome to the first concert of the spring semester for the Columbus State University Schwob Jazz Orchestra. My name is Kevin Whalen, and I'm the humble leader of this fantastic ensemble. I'm also the director of jazz studies here at Columbus State University. Thank you for spending your night with us, or at least a little bit of your night with us. We opened up with a chart from the late 1950s. For those of you who were at my recital last semester, you know that I featured the works of Shorty Rogers, a somewhat forgotten character from the 50s who was one of the pioneers of cool jazz. What we heard there was a tune called Grand Slam, which I thought was appropriate with opening day coming up on March 28th. The chart we played in the fall was The Linebacker, so I'm a sports fan. Give me a break. So we decided to pick a chart that aligned again with the opening of the baseball season coming up. It came from an album that was released in 1958 called A Portrait of Shorty. One of the characteristic ideas of a lot of that music from the 50s is that it was highly arranged and solos were probably not the main attraction. And you'll notice that because the solo sections were very, very short. So you heard from several people. You heard a direct transcription from our lead trumpet player back there, Mr. Stevie Vogt. You also heard wonderful solos from Kirk Cabana, Brian Canonico, Sam Dufresne, Reginald Corby, Eric Burgess. Anybody? Did I miss anybody? They're always featured. They're jazz musicians. They're always featured. In any case, we're going to move forward with another piece that is totally different, that actually comes from the library of the North Texas 1 O'Clock Lab Band. This was released just a couple of years ago on Lab 2017, the yearly album that's released by that university. The director of composition and arranging, his name is Mr. Rich DeRosa. He arranges for the Lincoln Center Jazz Orchestra, the WDR Big Band in Germany. And he's a Grammy-nominated composer and arranger, and one heck of a jazz drummer, and a really nice guy. One of my favorite composers. In any case, this piece is a decidedly modern affair, written very much in the style of what I would consider to be that murky, anguished Neil Slater style, but I wouldn't say it's really that dire. This is called Roundabout, and it's going to feature a couple of people very prominently. First off, we're going to feature Mr. Reginald Corby, our tremendous bassist in the back, on a very, very long bass solo. And we're also going to hear from Brian Canonico on the alto saxophone. This is Rich DeRosa's Roundabout. Reginald Corby on the bass. Brian Canonigo, alto saxophone. Those are some heavy changes. In the jazz lingo, when we say something is heavy, we mean something is hard, or deep, or challenging, or ethereal, or something. But I know that if I had to play those chord changes, I'd have to go to another jazz lingo place, the woodshed, to work on it, to get my stuff together, because those are no easy chord changes, and I think both Reginald and Brian did a tremendous job of playing it. Moving forward, I'm about to introduce our singer for the Schwob Jazz Orchestra. And Victoria has been with us for several years. She is a vocal performance major, and she's managed to move all the way through the classical performance idiom. And towards the end of her degree, she's decided she wants to focus on jazz as a primary part of her study. And I'm thrilled that she is going to grace us with her talents. So without further ado, please welcome Miss Victoria Evans Cash to the stage. I'm going to introduce the couple of tunes we're going to play. They have a decidedly, let's just say, 1930s Broadway theme. The first chart that she's going to be singing for us is a chart that was written for Sarah Vaughan, but it's a tune that wasn't written for Sarah Vaughan. The name of the chart is But Not For Me. It was written by George and Ira Gershwin. It first appeared in a musical from 1930 called Girl Crazy. And this was not the most famous tune that came from that, but nonetheless, the tune moved on to have a life of its own, and jazz musicians, including many of our favorites, Sarah Vaughan, Ella Fitzgerald, for me as a trumpet player, Chet Baker made a tremendous version of this, moved on and got to sing it and play it. And I think it's one of those tunes that just doesn't do it justice without words, so I'm thrilled that we get to have Victoria sing it. So, this is But Not For Me, featuring Miss Victoria Evans Cash.
They're writing songs of love, but not for me. A lucky stars above, but not for me. With love to lead the way, I've had more clouds of gray than any Russian play could guarantee. I was a fool to fall and get that way. Hi-ho, alas, but also lack a day. Although I can't dismiss the memory of his kiss, I guess he's not for me. Was a fool to fall and get that way. Hi-ho, alas, but also lack a day. Although I can't dismiss the memory of his kiss, I guess he's not for me.
Thank you very much. Again, let's give it up for Victoria singing But Not For Me. Thinking about the other piece that we were going to feature her on, and believe us, there's a lot more that's coming from Victoria, and we have a lot of music that we would love for her to sing, but the next chart we decided we would choose similar source material. The next tune you'll see in your program is called Makin' Whoopee. Most of the guys in the band weren't sure what that was referring to. Some of them thought it was about cookies, something, I'm not sure, but the subject matter is a touch more lurid, but possibly in a satirical way. It actually comes from a musical out of 1928 called Whoopee, and it's really about the story of people dating, getting together, getting married, having kids, living the life, and then possibly wishing they hadn't. It's sort of, and this song, the source of this song, is really tells the story of that, and is more serving as a warning about marriage as a trap. Nonetheless, that's not why we picked it. We picked it because it's a tremendously fun tune. It's got a tremendous melody, and I've always been a great fan of the melody, not as much the lyric, but the melody has really always been wonderful. This is a Dave Wolpe arrangement of Makin' Whoopee.
June, another sunny honeymoon, another season, another reason for making a whoopee. A lot of shoes, a lot of rice. The groom is nervous, he answers twice. That he's so willing to make whoopee. Picture a little love nest down where the roses cling. Picture the same sweet love nest. Think what a year could bring. Washing dishes and baby clothes. He's so ambitious, he even sews. Oh, don't forget, folks, that's what you get, folks, for making whoopee. Another bride, another June, another sunny honeymoon, another season, another reason for making whoopee. A lot of shoes, a lot of rice. The groom is nervous, he answers twice. It's really killing that he's so willing to make a whoopee. Picture a little love nest down dishes and baby clothes. He's so ambitious, he even sews. Oh, don't forget, folks, that's what you get, folks, for making whoopee. Oh, don't forget, folks, that's what you get, folks, for making whoopee.
Victoria Evans-Cash. Victoria Evans-Cash. It's amazing. We were getting this chart ready, and I had a certain tempo in mind, and she said, why don't we just go a little bit slower? I think it'll work a little bit slower, and she was absolutely right. And making all of that possible behind her, Taylor Hudock, for taking care of business on the quarter notes. We all think of jazz, the hardest thing being fast, fiery, Charlie Parker, Bird, Miles Davis, that kind of idea. But in truth, that slow swing with the triplet subdivision pinning it, that's really, I mean, it underpins blues as well, but that's really what makes things tough. We're going to move forward with the chart from two jazz masters, one older, one younger. The man, his name is Thelonious Monk. We've all heard of Thelonious Monk? Yeah, of course. Thelonious Monk's famous for a number of reasons. Chief among those is he's the second most recorded composer in the history of jazz, behind none other than Duke Ellington. Duke Ellington holding the title, who composed far more than Monk, but Monk's tunes were so cherished and loved by the jazz community that they were recorded over and over and over again. One of his favorite tunes, Around Midnight, has been recorded countless times, and for good reason. He was also one of the founding fathers of bebop. People don't give him credit for that. But why I like him the most, and I love the way he played and the stuff that he did with Coltrane and the stuff he did with his own groups, including the great Charlie Rouse on tenor saxophone, I actually appreciate him for his compositions, because that's what we get to still play today. And they had a very distinct sound to them. They're a little bit edgy, they're certainly adventurous, and they're definitely celebrate the idea of dissonance as a virtue. It leans into that. They're simple, angular melodies that bring you in, and they're just a little bit, as I would say, crunchy. And the chart that we're going to bring to you tonight is from Bimsha Swing, and it's from the great arranger Bill Holman, who played tenor in the Stan Kenton Band, and again is one of the greatest arrangers, and we bring his charts to you all the time. So, without further ado, this is Bimsha Swing from Thelonious Monk and the arrangement of Bill Holman. Thank you very much. We heard from several folks on that. Let's not forget the drummer, Mr. Taylor Hudak in the back. Leading off, Eric Burgess on the guitar. A sophomore and a newcomer in our improvisation crew in the back. This is Mr. Nathan Moore on trumpet. And of course, you all know Brian Canonigo. And truly, it's truly important to recognize just how good he sounds. This is one of his last concerts, so make sure you get out and hear him while he's still here, because he's moving on after getting a master's degree and an honors diploma. So this is actually his last jazz concert at the Schwob School of Music. Yeah, he's crossing his fingers. He's still got a few more chairs and stands to move, but I'm not too worried about that. We're going to move on to a chart or an old tune that I'm sure many of you recognize, In the Wee Small Hours of the Morning. When you think about that tune, there's one person that comes to mind, and it's probably Frank Sinatra, right? Wee Small Hours of the Morning, it's an old drinking song. It's the kind of song that you would sing to the bartender at 3 in the morning, or at least you were thinking that's what you were thinking about. It's supposed to express the misery or the blues, and that's a way to make you feel better about it. Frank Sinatra and Basie worked together many, many times. And of course, leading up to one of the best jazz recordings of all time that I reference, it's the 1966 album, Sinatra Live at the Sands. It was actually his first live released recording. It was in the Copa Room in the former Sands Hotel, which is no longer there. But 3 years prior to that, Count Basie released an album that was basically just playing the hits of Sinatra, and this arrangement was done for that. So, a slow tutti, meaning together, slow tutti together expression of the melody to In the Wee Small Hours of the Morning. We're going to hear from Nathan Moore in the back. We're going to hear a little bit from Eric. I'm trying to think who else we might be hearing from. Oh, we're going to also hear from Mr. Kirk Habana on the tenor saxophone. So this is In the Wee Small Hours of the Morning. In the wee small hours of the morning. If it's the wee small hours of the morning, you don't want to play too loudly. So that's what we hear all those beautiful bucket mutes there. That's what they're doing. One of the trombone players, hold up a bucket mute. That's right. We actually have a set of these, courtesy of Paul Vandergans, that we use to bring down the volume and give that nice, warm, soft sound. And when you have 18 players playing together and it's a piano, it's truly a magical thing. I'd like to call out the efforts of Mr. Kirk Cabana on tenor saxophone. When we met 2 years ago, he wasn't a jazz saxophone player. And now, whether he likes it or not, he plays jazz saxophone. Also heard a great solo from Nathan back there on the trumpet. And of course, the one and only Eric Burgess on guitar. In the spirit of show business, I like the phrase, it's always good to leave people wanting more. And I think we try to model things after, a show business set. A set in show business, professional big bands is about an hour long, 45 minutes, something around there. This show is a one-set show, just like if you went out to Vegas or New York, you'd hear a one-set show. We do a two-set show that happens at the Loft on May 3rd, Friday, May 3rd at the Loft. That's a two-set show, and we'll do some of this stuff and some new stuff and have some great soloists there. So I encourage you to come out and check that out on May 3rd. A couple of thank yous. I always like to thank the tremendous applied faculty here, Brad Palmer, Rock Murray, Joe Gerard, Jackie Pickett, Paul Viancourt, Ben Weatherford, our tremendous administration, Scott Harris, our dean, Larry Dooley, and everybody that supports us in what we do here. I'd also like to thank these fine students. It's wonderful that they come in and are able to take care of business on what is not easy music. These are all professional additions. I don't buy the high school stuff. This is the real stuff, and they really do a wonderful job. So please give them a hand. I'd also like you to take a look around and notice some of the ancillary items in the room that support us, specifically the microphones. If you look up in the corners, you'll see cameras. Those are live streaming to the internet. This is on TV right now. Due to two things. First off, a generous gift from the one and only Gail Greenblatt, who's put the money behind getting us streaming all the time. But also, we have a tremendous audio technical crew led by Dr. Matthew McCabe and incredible fine student employees who are here professionally producing this concert. So let's please give it up for our audio, technical, and video folks in the crowd. We've got one more for you tonight, and it's a humdinger. There was a moment last semester where, I can't remember what chart we were playing, but it was Freedom Jazz Dance, and Eric said, our mild-mannered guitarist here, he's sort of got a darker side. And he said, "Can I bring in my distorted guitar? Can I do a distorted guitar solo?" And I said, "Sure, why not?" And he did it, and everybody's jaws dropped. Am I right, fellas? Everybody was just like, "Oh my God. He doesn't look like a ripper, but he is." And nonetheless, I went home for break. I had some back surgery, and I was at home sitting and listening and trying to figure out what we were going to do next semester, and I couldn't get this electric guitar sound out of my ear, and I ran across some really, really wonderful arrangements from the band Steely Dan. If there's any Steely Dan fans out there, it was sort of a jazz pop fusion group. It brought together a lot of what was going on in the 1970s. Some people, including Rolling Stone magazine, have said that it was one of the best rock bands of the 70s. And they really brought together a lot of worlds, and jazz musicians flock to Steely Dan and really love the music. We're going to bring to you a hit called "Do It Again." It was off the 1972 album, "Can't Buy a Thrill," I think was the name of the album. It was their debut album. It came out. It sort of took the music industry by storm. "Reelin' in the Years" was the tune that was most famous from that album. It was redone and rearranged by a man named Fred Sturm, who sadly passed away several years ago, and one of the best composers and arrangers that we have. So, by Walter Becker and Donald Fagen, this is "Do It Again," featuring Eric Burgess on guitar. Thank you so much. My name is Kevin Whalen. I hope you enjoy it. Hope to see you next time.
Stand up, Eric. Brian, get on to go. Everybody in the band, stand up.
Thank you very much for coming out. We are the Schwob Jazz Orchestra. My name is Kevin Whalen. We hope to see you at the next one. Have a safe evening.